Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. My name is Paul Salter, and I'm a triple-digit golfer on a quest to become a scratch golfer. I'm also a high-performance mindset coach and credentialed hypnotherapist with 15 years of experience helping high performers from all walks of life get unstuck and unlock their full potential. Join me each week as I not only detail my journey, but make mastering the mental game of golf simple, tangible, and relatable so that you can overcome the mental hazards keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance. Hey, fellow golfer, welcome back to another episode of the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Salter, the golf hypnotherapist, and I am thrilled to share what will likely be a unique approach to the show. Today's episode being slightly different than the 30-odd episodes that precede today's episode. And the way I'd like to begin today's episode is with a quote. It's more important to know where you are going than to get there quickly. Do not mistake activity for achievement. One more time. It's more important to know where you are going than to get there quickly. Do not mistake activity for achievement. I am so curious to know how that quote lands for you. For me, I've alluded to it in many past episodes. It's almost as if the theme in my life has been an underlying false sense of urgency. This innate desire, drive to go, to grow, being the fire that has been consistently lit under my ass for the past 3+ decades. Yet, reflecting back, there have been so many moments in my life, distinct periods of my life, where I just simply felt unable to stop going. And I would go for the sake of going. I would do for the sake of doing, unable to be at peace, to be at rest, to be present, to be engaged in play. I thought that I always had to be doing. I always had to be going. And I'm so curious to know if there's any relatability or any aspect of this quote resonates for you. And the focus of today's episode, again, slightly yet significantly different than anything we've done in the past, is going to be a bit reflective, as I'm going to share with you maybe 10, maybe as many as 15. We'll see how long this ends up going. 10 to 15 quotes or questions that have profoundly shaped my life, my way of being, and my identity. And it is my aim in today's episode to not only get a bit more personal and vulnerable with you and sharing some of these pivotal quotes and questions that have had a significant impact on my life. The aim is also to empower you to sit with these quotes and questions, to ponder them, to chew upon them, to reflect, to see where and how you can perhaps begin to see the world differently, perhaps through an upgraded lens of clarity, or perhaps see how you can begin to challenge some outdated or counterproductive ways of thinking, being, feeling, or behaving. And I like to begin with the quote I shared previously, because I think it's so easy in the game of golf to set our sights, whether it be on breaking 80, achieving scratch, winning a tournament. It's so easy to want to get there yesterday. The allure, the high, the dreamlike scenario we're able to get lost in within our own minds is intoxicating. we're overwhelmed with dopamine, the collection of feel-good hormones and sensations that ultimately, for the sake of feeling as if we are moving closer to our goal, we take action for the sake of taking action. And far more often than I care to admit, and far more often than my clients care to admit, we fall victim for taking action for the sake of taking action to the point that we're taking counterproductive and ineffective action. We're taking so much action that we're actually moving further away from our goal. Rather than taking slow, intentional, effective, and methodical action, we're taking fast and vast amounts of action just for the sake of fucking taking action because it makes us feel good. Listen to that last part. We take this insane amount of action, just random scattered action, because it makes us feel good. When in truth, the action we need to take is likely simple, straightforward, and not nearly as much compared to what we're currently doing. It's just that the action we need to be taking, the most straightforward, simple, effective path, different. It's unfamiliar. It's novel. It's scary. Sometimes it's almost as if it's too good to be true, rather too simple to be true. Yet if we took a massive step back and focused on taking the most effective, even the most effective action that brings up the most discomfort and resistance, it is this path of most resistance that is also going to generate the most results. The path of least resistance likely will generate the path of least results. And I want you to keep that in mind. And I'm curious to know how you can begin to filter that question, that quote, through the lens of your approach to achieving your unique goal in the game of golf, as well as some of your unique goals in the realm of business, your marriage, your professional life, your personal life, or your parenting, your health, your fitness endeavors. Are you just simply taking action for the sake of taking action? Are you mistaking activity for the sake of activity? Or for the sake of, do you mistaking activity or taking activity for the sake of achievement, for that short-term hit of dopamine to feel good? Because I'll tell you what's far more rewarding than these short-term little bursts and exposures of dopamine that you receive from just taking action for the sake of taking action. It's the massive yet slow accumulation, the slow drip of serotonin, the long-term, long-withstanding variation of peace, fulfillment, and contentment you experience when you lean into that resistance, because it's the resistance you experience, the more resistance you experience, that generates more results, the results you are seeking. Moving on to the second quote or question I'd like you to ponder. And it is as follows. Don't be intimidated by what you don't know. That can be your greatest strength, and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else. Again, don't be intimidated by what you don't know. That can be your greatest strength, and ensure that you do things differently from everyone else. You know, I'm not sure how familiar you are with my story, my background. I grew up playing a good amount of golf, especially, between the ages of 12 and 16. I played quite a bit of golf, especially over the summers. I didn't touch a golf club for more than 15 years. I didn't work with golfers in the mindset and hypnotherapy space for a very long time. My work was specific to a collection of high performers in the business owner and entrepreneurial space, in the professional poker space, in other collegiate and professional sports, but not golf for the longest time. And there were a couple of people when I started working with golfers that were curious how that was going to work, why that was going to work. You and I both know there's no shortage of mental game coaches in the space of golf psychology coaches who they themselves have a long track record of experience, competition, and success in golf. I mean, there are many big names in this mental game of golf industry that are scratch golfers, plus handicaps, multi-tournament winners. And every step of the way, I just simply looked at this as an opportunity to bring a unique perspective. And the reason I share this with you is because for me, what I don't know specific to some of the intricacies of elite level tournament golf from a ruling standpoint, from a format standpoint, have allowed me to just ask questions, to get really fucking curious. And I found in my experience as I've connected with golfers on the golf course, had a collection of great talents and minds on my podcast. The questions I've asked, because of just my unique experience and story, were asked in such a different way that they provoked a very thoughtful response that not only did I benefit from the answer, the response, and the conversation, but so too said the person answering benefit from the question and conversation. Because although it was around a topic he or she was very familiar with, the angle, the perspective was different, that it challenged them to answer and articulate in a different manner, which allowed both of us to heighten our engagement and presence in the conversation. And we were both able, and this has happened on countless occasions, to learn so much, to understand a concept deeper, to understand a new application of that question. So I bring this back to you now because it served me so well in my life. Don't be intimidated by what you don't know. See this lack of knowledge as an opportunity and a sign to get curious. Leverage this naivety as one of your greatest strengths to make sure that you do things differently. Whether it's in the golf space, in the business space, there's never going to be a shortage of content. Be your own unique, authentic self. Take your perspective. Not a single one of the, 8+ billion people in this world has walked your exact journey. You have a unique perspective, and what you don't know can be a wonderful opportunity to leverage uncertainty and unknowingness as a superpower to get curious and ultimately cultivate your own unique perspective that creates more of an impact either in your life or those that you serve. Third quote, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. Again, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others. This quote was shared with me by a mentor, 7 years ago. And it was a time early in my solopreneur coaching career where I was working with an exorbitant number of clients in the email coaching space and in the phone call coaching space. 70, 80-hour weeks were routine for me. And when he said that, I literally don't think the first time he said it even registered. I'm pretty sure that my mind shut off or redirected after he said, if you want to go fast, go alone. Because again, I've been hardwired ever since I remember to go fast. And I'm pretty sure, again, my mind stopped listening after that. But then I started running into the same issue over and over again. That despite working these incredibly long, exhaustive weeks, I wasn't seeing the impact or the income growth that I thought I would be. The growth that I desired and felt I deserved remained elusive and just out of reach. And through further conversation and a readiness to change after just an extended period of time of exhaustion and headache, I started to accept and digest the second half of that quote. If you want to go far, go with others. And this was a pivotal moment for me in my business life because now, for the first time ever, I started delegating. I started outsourcing. I started automating. I started bringing somebody on board as a team member. I started learning how to be a leader, how to be a manager, how to be a better communicator. And ultimately, although that presented a plethora of growing pains, it brought me more success. It allowed me to achieve more. And lo and behold, it actually allowed me to achieve more and to achieve more faster if I was willing to be patient and see it through to the long term. Now we come to the game of golf. And again, there's kind of this theme. We want to be a scratch golfer yesterday. And I had the utmost confidence saying that I can and would break my initial goal or achieve my initial goal of breaking 90 before November 13th without taking a single lesson. And what I mean by that is I could show up at the golf course every day. I could grind it out. I could figure a way to finagle a decent enough swing to break 90. My ultimate goal is not to break 90. If 90 is the only place I wanted to be, I could make that happen. No problem. I probably would have already achieved it now. My goal extends far beyond that. It's much bigger. It's much more emotionally charged. There's a deeper element to this goal. And I know that in order to get there, I need the appropriate fundamentals, and I need them to be strong. I need them to eventually grow from proficiency and conscious competence to mastery, unconscious competence, being able to effortlessly execute my core swing, as my coach Melvin shares. And I knew that. And as I've shared before, my goal of breaking 90 by November 13th is to apply a lens of healthy pressure and urgency to do what I need to do to make faster strides in my game, but to do so without sacrificing the fundamentals and basic aspects of the game that I need to have mastered when I have broken 80 consistently and am very close to achieving my goal of scratch. So knowing that ultimately I want to go far, I've chosen to go with others. And I've been on the other side of this, learning the hard way how exhaustive and ultimately destructive it can be choosing to go fast with a goal of going far. You get burnt out, to say the least. Number 4, which is a beautiful complement to follow the previous quote, is quite simple. Asking for help accelerates results. Asking for help accelerates results. There's not much more that needs to be said. The challenge so many people face, you, me, is there's almost this innate conditioning in which we feel asking for help is a sign of weakness. This is especially true in the male clients I work with. It's been especially true in my life up until about a decade ago. We feel it's a sign of weakness. We don't have the courage to be vulnerable, to be humble and admit that we need help. But asking for help accelerates results. Asking for help allows a new perspective, a new brain, second pair of eyes, ears, to view the situation from an unbiased lens, that 30,000-foot view of non-judgmental, objective curiosity, to point out things that you're unable to see because you're too close to the situation. Moreover, it allows an opportunity to invite somebody into your circle of influence who has a different collection of skills, a different area of expertise, who has also walked a completely different journey. And ultimately, that allows a complement. It creates a synergistic effect of your talents, ambitions, and collection of skills to be paired with someone else's who has your best interest in mind. It creates a powerful synergy, which is why all of the best, most successful individuals in every fucking aspect of life not only have one coach, likely have multiple coaches. They have some form of a mindset coach, a business coach, a nutrition and or fitness coach, The list goes on and on. They likely have some type of body work coach, and maybe the coach isn't always the appropriate word, but a massage therapist, a physio, a personal trainer, whatever it may be. Asking for help accelerates results. Moving on, I believe number 5, and I can promise you now, there's a strong likelihood I lose track of what number we're on. Action alleviates anxiety. Action alleviates anxiety. More often than not, anxiety, this fear of the unknown, this fear of not having control, is simply alleviated by taking action. I have an imagination that anywhere in your life you're currently feeling anxious, you know what needs to be done. That anxiety is centered around and anchored to an action left undone, a conversation that needs to be had, an action step or decision that needs to be taken or made. And the anxiety is around fear of the outcome, fear of the unknown, fear of confrontation. Action alleviates anxiety. Feeling anxious about the upcoming tournament? Take action and go practice where you're not feeling as confident as you'd like. Feeling anxious about having a conversation with your significant other, your boss, your coworker, your employee? Have the conversation. It may bring up immediate challenge and resistance due to whatever nature of the situation it is, but on the other side of that is peace and the absence of anxiety. Action alleviates anxiety. Number 6, perhaps one of my favorite. Information alone isn't enough. You still have to do the work. We live in a day where there is no shortage of information. In fact, one would argue it's information overload. You head to Google. You can get search results about the best high-protein pizza recipe all the way to the exact blueprint of some of NASA's rocket ship designs. Thousands upon thousands of results in thousandths of a second. Your problem, your challenge, the underlying reason as to why you are stuck in any and every aspect of your life is not an information problem. It's a mindset problem. It's the internal collection of fear you experience that prevents you from doing what you know and what you know needs to be done. Information alone isn't enough. And here's the really challenging aspect of that. Learning and acquiring new information, it's fucking fun. It's exciting and makes us feel good. It gives us that hit of dopamine. I mean, just think about yesterday when you were scrolling through either Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook, watching one swing video after the next. How good that felt to learn. Maybe you went down the rabbit hole with one specific content creator and you're looking at videos on how to navigate, using a 60 versus a 56, a bump and run versus a flop shot, and you're acquiring all this information. Yet, do you ever go apply it? I hear countless stories of these individuals all the time. I read 50 books a year. I go to 8 conferences a year, but they're the same individuals at those conferences year after year. They're the same individuals who make the same amount of money, live in the same location, work the same dead-end job year after year. They are a wealth of knowledge. They're great to have at parties and cocktail hours to talk to, but they don't ever take any action. Information alone isn't enough. You still have to do the work, which is a beautiful segue into our next one, number 7. The results you are looking for lie in the work you are avoiding. The results you are looking for lie in the work you are avoiding. Let's just be candid. There are likely elements of the game of golf you love to practice. And there also is likely an element of the game you could do without. Maybe putting's not your favorite. Maybe chipping's not your favorite. Maybe you're really good at justifying or rationalizing or coming up with a long list of excuses as to why you don't need to practice you're putting, you're chipping, you're driving, this shot or that shot. But the truth is, whatever you know and you fucking know, you are avoiding, or that creates a sense of internal resistance, discomfort, anxiety, tension, or tightness in your body, if you address that head on, if you attack that head on, that is where the results you are seeking lie. And so many of you listening are incredibly well versed in the mental game of golf. You've read the Rotella books. You've listened to the Mental Golf Show, Wicked Smart Golf, the Sweet Spot podcast, Par Train, and hell, even the Scratch Golfer's Mindset podcast. You listen, you listen, you listen. You consume, you consume, you consume. And every one of these shows does an excellent job sharing practical tips, tangible strategies, and action steps. In fact, empowering, imploring, and reminding you to take action after the episodes. And the only episode you ever take is hitting play on the next episode. And while that's well and good and greatly appreciated by all those individuals, including myself, you don't take the action that matters. The work you are avoiding is where the results you are seeking. Conversely said, the results you are looking for lie in the work you are avoiding. Moving on, number 8. You can't change unless you change. You can't change unless you change. This quote is actually tattooed on my forearm. It's something a mentor shared with me maybe 4 years ago. Didn't really stand out to me at that time, other than I like alliteration, I like play on words, I liked the redundancy of the quote. You can't change unless you change. And also, let's be frank, the obvious duh, no shit aspect of that quote. It didn't really begin to resonate with me until I found myself trapped in multiple patterns in my life. Trapped in some not so smart, regretful patterns financially. Dumb spending, impulsive spending, financial decisions, things like that didn't need to be purchased were still being purchased and then ultimately not acted upon, not used. And then looking back, it was like, why in the world did I purchase that? I started to see the pattern play out at the end of my divorce and in my personal life, in my dating life. Just making dumb decisions that were replications, or that's not the word I'm looking for, were reflections, there's the word, of similar decisions I had made in the past. I was finding myself dating similar people in these same pools of environments. And one day I woke up and I recognized that the single reason I was in the same predicament financially or in my romantic life, or even in my friendships in my professional life, the single biggest factor was me. I was the reason. I wasn't changing. I kept wishing, hoping, and wanting, desiring change in every one of the aspects of my life I just alluded to. Yet that change started with me. I couldn't change my results unless I changed who I was. It was Einstein who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I was fucking insane. And it wasn't until I began to change that all of the results and elements of my life around me began to change. You can't change unless you change. Moving on, I think number 9. If you want what 5% of the population has, you must be willing to do what 95% are not. If you want what the 5% of the population have, you must be willing to do what the 95% are not. Let's be frank. Average, normal, ordinary individuals, average, normal, ordinary golfers. The definition of average, normal, and ordinary is overweight, unhappy, stressed out, and in debt. If you no longer wish to be in that classification, you have to be willing to do what these individuals are not. If you no longer wish to be a golfer who shoots in the 90s, you need to be willing to do what other golfers in the 90s are not. For simplicity purposes, maybe it's more time on the range. Maybe it's some way to practice at home, a putting green, a chipping green, a net. It's asking for help. It's hiring that coach. It's making sacrifices. If you want what the 5% have, you must be willing to do what the 95% are not. And this one was unique for me because I've always considered myself a high performer. I've always been proud of my drive, my ambition, and my work ethic. And I felt for a while, and I still feel this way, that it was really a superpower for me to get ahead, to go far. But I started recognizing that the next level for me in my growth as an individual was being able to exert a level of control over this ambition, this work ethic, this energy. It was creating a sense of safety, peace, granting a sense of permission, and slowing down to rest, to reset, to play, to recharge. And many of my peers at that time period in my life when this was most pronounced, they too were just go, 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 never stopping, never slowing down. So there became elements of FOMO. Like, well, if he's a little bit ahead of me and he's never taking a day off, I can't afford to take a day off. It was that rationale and that line of thinking. But I started recognizing I was misplaced in where I was setting my goals and my comparison points. I looked even further ahead. Who were the people who had already crossed the next couple of levels in front of me, who were that much further ahead? How did they get there? What were they doing? And it turns out they were willing to rest and slow down. They were fired up, reinvigorated, tackling every day with just a different level of clarity, energy, and tenacity. And I became intimately familiar about what they were doing and started recognizing there were aspects of my peer group at that time that I didn't need to mirror. I didn't need to replicate because I had different goals. So I learned that I could be willing and I could choose to be willing to do what that group was not. And that allowed me to start making some massive breakthroughs in my journey of introspection, reflection, and awareness, learning more about who I am, why and how I was wired the way I was, and using that as a catalyst for growth. Next up, lost track, maybe 9, maybe 10. You need to know what you're willing to give up to achieve your goal. You need to know what you're willing to give up and what you're not to achieve your goal. And I'm taken back, first to a sip of water, taken back to my time as a high-performance dietitian. And so many conversations around behavior change, the emotionality of weight change, gaining immense clarity around the identity of the individual once he or she achieved their significant sustainable weight loss goal. And it was empowering when we would work through an exercise related to gaining clarity about what they were willing to give up versus what they were not. Maybe they weren't willing to give up, as multiple of my clients had, family pizza night every Friday, homemade pizza in the pizza oven every Friday. The kids came over. If they were home for college, they brought their friends, or the young kids at home brought their friends over. It was a family affair, delicious homemade pizza. There was wine, cocktails, maybe multiple, non-negotiable, not something to be given up. Yet there were other aspects of their day, their habits, their routine, stopping for fast food multiple times per week, that they were willing to give up. And I find it creates an immense amount of clarity and peace, ultimately allowing you to feel and experience a sense of freedom and a surge in energy when you're incredibly clear on what you are and are not willing to give up to achieve a goal. I think this is a beautiful, powerful collection of questions to ask when it comes to finding your person, your romantic partner. What are you willing to give up, settle for, or compromise versus what you are not? I think the same lens could be applied productively and effectively in the business realm and how you want to show up with your team and your customers and your prospects. And then, of course, on the golf course, as you pursue your goals, what are you willing to give up? Because I have a hunch you listening, right now are not being paid to golf. You are not making a livable wage golfing, at least not yet. And if you are, hey, thank you so much for listening. So with that said, you're likely juggling a plethora of different responsibilities, wearing so many hats. You need to be very clear on what you are and are not willing to give up as it relates to family, your significant other, and your children. What does pay the bills? Any other hobbies or passions of yours? There needs to be some order of options or priorities that works for you. And of course, works for your loved ones, those who you love and care about most in your life. Next two, I'm going to pair them together. I think technically they're 10 and 11 or 11 and 12 is twofold. And I love asking this question towards the end of the first part of my initial call with new coaching clients. What are the best of the best in your respective field doing that you are not? What are the best of the best in your respective field doing that you are not? And what are the best of the best in your respective field not doing that you are? This question is so much fun. And I encourage you to note, pin, write down those two questions and allow yourself to answer each of them with non-judgmental honesty, to just kind of word or emotionally vomit on a page and answer these questions. I had a really cool, powerful exercise with a client of mine asking these questions. And he's in the finance space. He's the president of his firm, and nets a good chunk of money. He'll probably come in around between, I think, 600 and 700K this year. And his goal for next year is to cross the 7-figure mark. All well and good. We're very clear on why he wants to do that, what it means to him, what it will require. But as we started unpacking these questions and he started getting intimately clear on what individuals in his respective field, niche, and industry who have achieved that goal, how they behave, show up, treat themselves, and what their day looks like, how they spend their energy and how they do not, it became abundantly clear how many opportunities he has in front of him to make a collection of subtle yet significant changes to better spend his time and his energy. Things he was not even considering about sleep hygiene, diet, exercise, meditation, confidence, his passion, achieving a flow state. There were so many things he was able to download in answering these two questions to give him clarity, to create a Northern Star and a blueprint as to what effective action steps he needs to prioritize and align to achieve this next goal. So I ask you, what are the best of the best in your industry doing that you are not? And what are the best of the best in your industry not doing that you are? Equally important. And last, certainly not least, when it comes to your specific goal, that big, ultimate, audacious, challenging goal, the one that keeps you up at night at 3 a.m. thinking about how to achieve it, when to achieve it, what it will feel like when you achieve it, the question, the quote is simple. Why? Why does that goal matter? Why is that goal important to you? Why do you want to achieve that goal? You need to know why. And coming back to that very first quote, it's more important to know where you are going than to get there quickly. I would update that quote to say, it's more important to know where and why you are going there than to get there quickly. You need to know why. You need an emotionally charged, deep-rooted reason why. Because if you have set an appropriate goal that scares you, that challenges you, that makes you uncomfortable, there will be no shortage of obstacles, both expected and unexpected roadblocks, detours that will come between you and achievement of that goal. There will be instances, moments where you question it all, you debate throwing it all away, walking away and giving up. And these are the moments that you, more than ever before, need an emotionally charged answer to the question, why? This is what you fall back on during tough times. Every single significantly successful individual in life has a why behind what it is they're doing, what they are working toward. They fall back on this when times get tough. They're reminded of the greatness, the opportunity, the fulfillment and achievement that awaits them if they push through. They exercise persistence, patience, grit, and commitment because they know their why. Well, there you have it. A long list of quotes that have personally transformed my life in so many ways, have helped shape the thoughts, identities, and results of so many of my clients. And now I'm hopeful for you, they will serve as tools, prompts, quotes, and reminders to help you push yourself like never before, get out of your own way, unlock your potential, and become the best version of yourself. I thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you're in a position where this is really resonating with you, you're still just feeling stuck. You know what to do, but it's like there's this invisible, gravitational-like force holding you back, keeping you captured, paralyzed in a state of inaction or counterproductive patterns. I invite you to connect with me. Schedule a call to learn more about how mindset coaching and hypnotherapy can help you get out of your own way, get unstuck, and unlock your full potential. And the link to do just that is in the show notes below. If you found today's episode valuable, share it with a friend, a fellow golfer, perhaps someone who doesn't even golf, because it was that important for somebody to hear who takes personal development seriously. I appreciate you listening, and I hope that you have a wonderful weekend of play. I wish you nothing but the best of lies as you hit them straight and have fun during this weekend's round. Have a great day, and I'll catch you in the next episode.